Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started as others join. Thank you for coming to learn more about our 2023 Best Places to Work program. My name is Shelby Bollinger. I'm the Director of Content Marketing here at Built-In, and I help lead this program every year. We're super excited about this year's program as we've made a ton of improvements over the past year that we're excited to dig into more today. And we're also looking forward to answering all of your questions so that you feel ready to participate in this year's program. A few housekeeping things before we dive in. The first is that we will be answering some frequently asked questions about the Best Places to Work program today, and we'll also be covering the questions that you all submitted during the registration for this webinar. However, if you have any questions throughout the webinar itself, please use the Q&A function to submit those. That will allow us to answer those if we have some time at the end. Also, a quick note, we are recording today's sessions, so if you would like to share this with your colleagues after or refer back to it, we will be sending the link out after today's event. Great. So during today's call, we'll first go a bit into what Best Places to Work is. We'll also discuss some of the new improvements that I mentioned to the 2023 program. Additionally, we'll go over the key program dates that all of you should be aware of. We'll also finish up with a few benefits of what you can expect if you are chosen as a Best Places to Work winner. And then finally, as I mentioned, we'll cover some frequently asked questions and all of the questions you submitted during the registration phase. Great, so what is Best Places to Work? At a super high level, Built-in's Best Places to Work is an awards program that recognizes companies located within the US. It's really recognition of the best tech companies for tech professionals. We have millions of candidates coming to the Built-in sites every month, and they really use these lists of winners to find their next employer. Any company within the US this year can nominate themselves for the Best Places to Work program at no cost. You do not have to be a paying partner of Built-in to nominate yourself. And both paying partners and non-paying partners of Built-in have an equal chance of being recognized as a winner. So how does it work? Best Places to Work is not like any other awards programs. Companies actually submit information directly to us through our products. There is no nomination form for this program. We also have a product-built algorithm that helps determine winners instead of a panel of external judges. So it's very unique in that way. Our algorithm really looks at two different categories to help determine who those winners are. One is perks and benefits, and the second is compensation. So to nominate your company, you will provide us insight into that total rewards package that you offer by adding the perks and benefits your company offers to its builtin.com company profile. And then we learn about your compensation package based on the salaries that you submit to the builtin.com salary tool. We'll get into how it works a little bit more later. But our algorithm really then assesses the information of those two categories and compares it to the information submitted by your peers, both companies of a similar size to yours and in specific locations. And that's really what helps us determine who those best of the best tech employers are and who will be recognized as winners in the Best Places to Work program. Great, so let's talk about the lists. There are multiple Best Places to Work lists that you can be considered for, again, depending on your company's size and location. And this year, we're super excited that for the first time ever, this program is open to any company within the United States. So in addition to recognizing employers across the entire US, we will also be recognizing tech companies within specific tech hubs. And you can see those locations here on the slide. We have Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. You'll see that 6 of those markets have an asterisk next to it. That basically just means that it's a newly supported location this year. So we're super excited to welcome them to the program. Also, for any companies that are fully remote and have most of their employees working remote all of the time, we'll also have separate recognition for them in our fully remote lists. It's important to note if your company has multiple office locations, you will be eligible for multiple lists and can win for multiple lists. Also, if you provide us with your total headcount information on your builtin.com company profile, you'll also be eligible for our best startup, best midsize, and best large companies to work for lists. So in total, there's around 65 lists this year in the program. And essentially, this is how it works. For every location you see on the left-hand side here, including remote and US, there are 4 different lists that a company can be eligible for. Our 100 Best Places to Work list essentially assesses all companies, no matter their headcount size, within these markets. Our 50 Best Startups Companies to Work For assesses companies within the specific location that has less than 100 employees. Our midsize does the same, except the employee headcount is from 101 to 1,000. And then for our large companies list, it recognizes employers with 1,000 plus employees within that given location. So again, in total, around 65 different lists that you can be a part of, depending on your company's size and location. And we'll get into it a little bit later on exactly how this works and how you can inform our algorithm which lists you would like to be considered for. Awesome. So I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation that we made a lot of improvements to the 2023 program. And I want to go over a few of those now. The first, which we already covered, is those additional lists. So I won't talk about those again. But one major update and difference in this year's program, if you've participated in Best Places to Work in the past, is that all information needs to be submitted through our national site, which is builtin.com, not our local market sites. So we will not be accepting submissions through Built in Chicago, Built in Boston, Built in Austin, et cetera, none of those local sites. We'll still be supporting those markets as you saw on the previous slide. It's just that everything needs to be submitted through builtin.com in order to be considered for those lists. So I'll get into that a little bit more later when we talk about the exact steps you need to take to be considered. But want to make that clear, that make sure that you are doing everything through our national site, which is builtin.com. One of the more exciting updates is that companies now have access and insight into their own eligibility status for the awards program. And so I'm actually going to show you that now. What's really nice about this new tool is it'll tell you exactly whether or not you're eligible. And if you are ineligible and have not yet completed the steps you need to, it'll show you exactly which steps still need to be completed. So in order to find this new tool, what you're going to do is go to our national site, builtin.com. Again, you will only find this tool on our national site, which is builtin.com, not any of our market sites, given that our market sites are not supported in Built-in or in Best Places to Work this year. Once you're on builtin.com, you'll want to make sure that you're logged in. You'll see something like this, and you'll hover over your company profile image in the top right-hand corner here. You'll click on Edit Company Profile. Once this page loads, you'll scroll down to the left-hand side and you'll see something called Best Places to Work Eligibility. Clicking on this will be that tool that we were just discussing. Oops, sorry, I must have clicked on the wrong thing there. And this will tell you that whether or not you're eligible. And as you can see in this instance, we are not yet eligible for the program. I'll come back to this tool in a couple of slides when we talk about exactly the steps you need to complete to be considered. But for now, I want to make sure you knew exactly where to find this tool. Great. Now I want to talk about some of the key dates to keep in mind throughout the program. Right now, we're in the nomination period, and that ends on November 10th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, and there will be no exceptions. So that means all of the steps for your company to be considered must be done on builtin.com before this date and time. If you are chosen as a Best Places to Work winner, we will notify you of that sometime the week of December 6th. However, keep in mind that you are not yet allowed to share that news publicly if you are chosen as a winner. You can begin sharing that information on January 11th once the lists are actually announced to the public. Really, why there's a gap in time here is to help all of you make sure you're making the most out of your recognition. We're going to give you an entire media kit to use and a lot of different materials to help promote this announcement and make sure you can really set up your campaigns to do well once the lists actually go live on January 11th. Awesome. I really quickly wanted to cover some of the benefits you can expect if you are chosen as a winner. So the first, and we've kind of alluded to this, is that really candidates use this to find top employers that they want to work for. Historically, we've seen hundreds of thousands of job seekers view our Best Places to Work lists in January alone, which is huge. And many more go on to use these lists throughout the entire year to find their employers. It really is a great way for tech professionals to begin researching those tech companies that they want to work for. Additionally, according to Harvard Business Review, around 88% of candidates do not trust what employers have to say about themselves. They really are looking for that third-party validation in order to trust that the company is a good employer. And that's exactly what these Best Places to Work lists can do for you. It really gives you that validation you need to impress candidates and have them join your company. We also know statistically that January and February are two of the most popular months for candidates to look for new employers and find new jobs. And given that our lists are published on January 11th, this is really the perfect time for your company to be recognized, and it can really help start your hiring and branding goals off the right foot within the next year, 2023. Great. So that's a little bit about Best Places to Work and what the program is. And I want to jump now into some of the frequently asked questions that many folks have about the program, as well as all of the questions you asked during the registration. The first and most important question is how to be considered for the list. So key things to remember here, again, to be eligible, you have to submit all of the information through your builtin.com company profile, not your market profile, before that November 10th date. Again, this is not a typical application process. You have to submit all of the information through our product. So I'm going to pull up the eligibility tracker again to show you exactly the steps you need to take in order to be considered for this program. Again, we're on builtin.com, which is why we can see this Best Places to Work eligibility tab. And as we can see in this example, we are not yet eligible for the program. So I'm going to walk through this example to show you how this company can now be eligible. I mentioned earlier that there is an optional step for companies to provide us with their total employee headcount. By doing this, you will be considered for our small or mid-size or large list, depending on your employee headcount. So I highly recommend filling out this information. That way you have a better chance and more chances to be recognized on certain lists. So luckily there's a nice little link here for me to find this section of your profile very easily. It is the total employee section I need to fill out. So I'm going to go ahead and input my total employees there, which I put as 2,000 in this example. So what this now means is that the Best Places to Work algorithm will consider this company for not only our overall Best Places to Work list in whatever locations this company is in, but also for the large lists within those locations. One thing to note is while you can fill out your local employee section, it's not something that our algorithm looks at. It's just the total employees section. And we also recommend that you use your global employee headcount there. One important step that needs to be done after changes are made onto your profile is clicking Save Profile. That not only saves the changes you've made, but it also allows our eligibility tracker to reset and pull in that information. Great, so one step down, I'm gonna click back on the tracker. Whoops, clicked on the wrong thing there. I'm gonna click back on the tracker. That way I know what step is next. So as you can see, I have a lot of incomplete steps here, and really the first one is location information. There's some instructions here to help you along, but I'm going to show it for you real time right now. Essentially what we need to do is navigate to the offices section. So the link here gets me in the right place, and I'm just going to scroll down until I find the offices portion of the page, which is here. There's a couple of required steps that you'll note and see based on if it has an asterisk next to it. And the first thing is workplace type. There's really 3 options if you are completely on site and in an office space, if you're a hybrid employer, or if you're a remote employer. In this example, I'm going to choose hybrid. So just choose one of those since it is a required step. There's a couple of other required and not required sections. Feel free to fill those out as necessary and as needed. However, what's most important in this step related to the Best Places to Work program is this nearest market field within your offices list. So let's say in this example that this company is located in Atlanta, Boston, and Chicago, and they want to be recognized and considered for all 3 of those Best Places to Work lists. In order to do that, what must be completed is this nearest market section. So I'm going to do each of them one by one. Since I want to be considered in Atlanta, that will be the first one I choose. And I'm going to fix this. Great. So now the algorithm knows based off of this nearest market field that I want to be considered for the Atlanta list. Then I'm going to go ahead and click Add Office Location. That way I can input the other cities that I'd like to be considered for. Great, you can see office number 2 has populated. I'm going to go ahead and choose Boston from the dropdown. Complete this section here. Great. Now the algorithm knows to be considered for Atlanta and Boston, but I do want to add in one more. I want to add in Chicago. So again, I'm repeating the same step, adding an office location. Once that populates, I'm again filling out that nearest market field, choosing Chicago, typing Chicago in, and that's it. And now you can see I've had 3 offices listed, each with the nearest market field filled out properly based off the locations I want to be considered for. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save Profile to save that information and let the algorithm know of those updates. I'm going to navigate back to that Best Places to Work eligibility section. That way I can see exactly what steps I still need to be doing. So while I'm still not yet eligible because I haven't completed all the steps, you can now see that this has dynamically changed to completed since I have followed the appropriate steps to be considered for certain locations. Great. The next step that's incomplete is company description. Again, there's a link right here to get me to the exact place I need. Describe what your company does. This is my company description. Great, just populate that with whatever you would like. Click Save Profile. Again, navigating back to the eligibility tracker. That way I can see what step is next in order to complete to be considered. Sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong link there. Great, we can now see that company description is marked complete, given that I added that in and click Save Profile. The next step is a gallery image. Important note here, it must be a JPEG or PNG in order to be eligible. But again, there's a handy URL here to get me to the right place. Again, I'm gonna look for that gallery image section, which I can see the header for here. essentially going to upload a JPEG or PNG file. Great. It's loading. Once it's loaded, again, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save Profile. That way my changes are saved and the algorithm knows that I've now met this requirement. Going to navigate back to the Best Places to Work Eligibility Tracker, again, to check out what that next step is. And gallery image now complete. So it's a nice little check for yourself that things are saved properly or done properly. And I know that the step is now complete and I'm eligible. Another step that's incomplete here for this company example is the perks of working here section. Gonna click in here. Essentially for this section, what you want to do is check the boxes that are accurately represent your perks and benefits program. So if you have volunteer opportunities, if you partner with nonprofits, if you have an open office floor plan, really you'll want to check all of the boxes that exist on this page that reflect your perks and benefits program. Once you've completed that and looked through that thoroughly and checked all the boxes that apply, again, we're clicking Save Profile. Great. Navigating back to the Best Places to Work eligibility section, as there is one more step to be completed. It's saying we're already eligible just because I've already done this step, but this is a sneak preview at the success message you will get once you've completed all the steps. But again, perks of working here is now showing as complete. And that final step that you need to take is to submit at least 5 salaries to our salary tool, which again tells our algorithm what your compensation package looks like. So I'm going to go to this link, which will bring me to a separate URL. And essentially what you need to do is fill out all the required fields. So I'm going to show an example here now. One important thing to note in the company section is you'll want to make sure that you are actually choosing the correct company name from the dropdown. So let me show built-in as an example. Perfect. So instead of just typing in built-in, I need to actually click on the pop-up that appears. That way the algorithm is attaching it to my company profile. Last required field here is company size. And then all I need to do is click submit. Again, you need to repeat this step 5 times. That way our tool gets 5 salaries for you, which is the minimum requirement in order to be considered. And if I navigate back to my eligibility section, you'll see that we've already completed this as it says complete. And that's it. Those are the steps that you need to complete to be considered. Again, if you are on builtin.com, you'll see your eligibility tracker and you will see a message that says congratulations if you are eligible, and that you'll be notified in December if you are chosen as a winner. If it says you are ineligible here, again, scroll down like I showed you to see what steps are incomplete and complete them as needed. If you are seeing a success message, I would also recommend still going through your perks of working here section to make any updates to the perks and benefits you might have added over the past year or a few months, especially if you haven't updated your built-in profile in a while. Awesome. And one other slight thing I wanted to note here, you'll see that despite doing all of the steps for Best Places to Work, it's still only showing my profile as 35% complete. That is okay. You do not have to have a 100% complete profile in order to be considered for Best Places to Work. Obviously, I'm being considered. I would, however, recommend make sure that your profile looks exactly how you want it and you check out some of the other fields listed here and complete them as necessary. Given that if you are chosen to a winner, lots of candidates are going to flock to your profile. So you want to make sure that it looks the best that it can and you have all of the details up that you would like candidates to know about. Great. So long-winded answer to an easy question, but I wanted to make sure you know exactly how to be considered for the list. Awesome. Next question, how are winners and rankings determined? This is a great question. So companies, as I've mentioned, are rated algorithmically based on two categories, perks and benefits and compensation. And both of those categories are weighted 50%. So you'll get a compensation score, which is 50% of your overall best places to work score. And then you'll get a score for your perks and benefits, which again is weighted as the other 50% of your best places to work score. How we determine your perks and benefits score is based off that perks of working here section that I just showed you on your builtin.com company profile. So for the benefits that you offer, you'll check a box like we just saw. And basically all of those boxes have a weighted scoring system that add up to your perks and benefits score. Then those 5 salary submissions that I showed you how to submit to our salary tool. For that, we look at the median percentile for all of those salaries that you entered, and we compare that to the compensation of other companies for those roles in our database. I'll get a little bit more into the salary section in a couple of slides. But essentially, it's these 2 scores that really determine whether or not you will be chosen as a winner and what your ranking will be on those lists. Great. So another wonderful question we get is, what types of salaries should I submit to have the best chance to be recognized on the list? What we recommend is that you submit your most competitive salaries. And really what we mean by that is, let's say you know from a compensation analysis that you pay software engineers a higher salary than those of your talent competitors. That's the type of salary you should be submitting. Now, if you're not sure how your compensation compares to other organizations, that's totally fine. In that case, we recommend you submit some of your higher salaries. But again, please keep in mind that just because you're submitting higher salaries does not mean that they are the most competitive salaries. Great. How is salary information used? So all of the salary information that you're submitting is completely anonymous. It is never tied to your company profile or your company externally in any way. It simply feeds our best places to work algorithm the information it needs to determine your company's compensation score. All of the salary information is personal identifiable information, so it is protected, and internal users at Built-in cannot even see it. So it will never be associated with your company. It only feeds into our algorithm in order to determine that score. It also does go into the averages that we use in our salary tool. So if you go to builtin.com and find our salary tool, candidates are able to search by job function and job role to see the average salaries across the US. So really your data just feeds into that, but it never says X company pays X amount for this role. It's not used in that way ever. Cool. So some folks asked, what tips do you have for companies who want to be recognized on the list? And there's a couple of things and advice we want to share with you. When you're updating the perks of working here section of your company profile, which again is those boxes you're checking to reflect your perks and benefits programs, be sure that you're closely looking through every option available and you're choosing ones that pertain to your organization. And if there's some that pertain to only certain employees for a given reason, and you're comfortable checking that box, go ahead and check that box. You might have noticed there's an open text field that you can fill out to provide candidates and potential candidates more information. While the algorithm for best places to work does not look and assess the open text field, it helps candidates who are looking at your profile really understand how that benefit affects them as an employee or might not affect them as an employee. So again, if you're unsure, default to checking it and then just further explain the benefit or offering you have within that open text field. Second piece of advice, which we already talked about, is submitting your most competitive salaries. Again, if you've done a compensation analysis, make sure you're using that research to kind of identify which of those positions you pay a bit more competitively based on your talent competitors. And then lastly, something else that we've covered is if you do have more than one office location, make sure you're putting that information into your builtin.com company profile, as I showed you, by listing multiple offices and making sure your nearest market field on each of them is filled out. This will really just give you a better chance to be considered for more lists. One question we always get is, will companies be recognized in the 2023 program for the entire year? Yes. If you are chosen as a winner, you will be on our 2023 list as a winner throughout the entire 2023 calendar year. Great. So it looks like there were some questions coming through the Q&A and the chat. So I'm going to take a look at those now. One of the questions is, does Built-in favor companies that are fully remote? Here's how I'll answer that question. We do not. However, if you remember when I was going through the lists that our program offers, there are lists specifically for remote companies. So I actually forgot to mention this. So let me go back to how you submit information to us. If you are a fully remote company, when you are filling out the offices and locations section, you might have noticed that the workplace type, there was a remote option. You are eligible as a remote company by simply adding this information. If you have no office locations, that's okay. You can remove this and you'll still be eligible. So if you choose your workplace type as remote, you will be considered for our remote only lists. So in that instance, obviously companies that are remote are going to have a better chance of winning because they're the only companies we're assessing for those lists. But if you're not remote and you're in specific locations and things like that, there's really no added benefit to being a remote company. However, there might be some like remote or hybrid friendly perks that are within this list that are weighted a certain amount. So having those might benefit you, but again, I wouldn't state that companies who are remote have an advantage in any way. Let's see. Someone asked, but what if a company has great pay and benefits, but a toxic culture? It's a great question. It's something that we have tried to solve for and dig into throughout the many years that we've run this program. Unfortunately, as of now, the only two factors we look at are pay and benefits. We do not look into things that might be happening on the PR front or the culture front. We recognize this as an area of improvement that we are looking into and trying to explore ways to factor in. However, we are very upfront with candidates when we share this list that we are only looking at a company's compensation and their benefits. So we are very truthful with candidates themselves. That way they know exactly what types of employers they're looking into. And then they can kind of go and do that research on their own to figure out if it has a culture that aligns with what they're looking for in their next employer. So great questions. Just trying to get the Q&A function pulled up here. Before I do that, I think there is one more question that I'll address. But before I jump out of the slides, I did just want to thank you for joining. Again, I'm going to cover one more question, but if we did not answer your question live during this call, feel free to email us anytime at bptw@builtin.com. Our team is monitoring this inbox all of the time, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with your specific question. But just give me one moment here and I will pop open the Q&A. Oh, I think they're the same questions that were in the chat, so I did answer them. Great. But again, with that, please let us know and email us at bptw if you have any further questions that we did not answer. As a reminder, the session was recorded. We will be sending the recording to you later this afternoon. That way you can refer back to it as needed. But thank you all for joining, and we hope you have a wonderful day.